Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, football fans of all ages. This is Tim May along with
Bill Rabinowitz.
Our third wheel, Rob Aller, isn't here today. He's got to cover LeBron James, so I guess that takes a long time to get ready for. With that said, I mean, Penn State's had a long time to get ready for Ohio State, just like Wisconsin had a long time to get ready for Ohio State. Wisconsin clearly did not waste its time in its off week.
I watched the replay of it last night, and what I thought I saw Saturday was confirmed when I watched it. They had Ohio State scheme, that jet sweep. They knew exactly where Ohio State was going to be. They cut off Ohio State's perimeter game on offense in the first half especially. That was a very good, very well-coached Wisconsin team.
Prepared, yes.
Very prepared, and they're going to face the same thing. I guess my question is, Paul Chryst is not the most dynamic personality. He's a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
James Franklin has a dynamic personality. The jury is out on whether he's a great game day X's and O's coach, and he'll have to be this week.
Well, 2 years ago, Ohio State went over to Penn State, and that was a very good Ohio State team that was on the rise. And that was a Penn State team that I thought was middling at best.
Right.
They took that game to overtime. I mean, it took J.T. Barrett some heroics in overtime, a couple touchdowns to make that happen. You give a team a little bit of a time and a home field advantage, and it can make a huge difference. And, of course, as Urban Meyer pointed out this week, they're going from one top 5 home field situation to another one this week when they play the whiteout in the whiteout conditions at Penn State, and it's loud. The fans are yelling at the players going and coming from the field, even in the little walkway.
Fenced area.
Yeah, I mean it's they run the gauntlet there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Penn State is still not a great team by any means, but they do have some great players, and the best player they have is Saquon Barkley, who kind of made his name against Ohio State a couple years ago. He was an unknown freshman. Actually, it was last year. Last year, I'm sorry. Kind of an under-the-radar guy, and he lit up Ohio State, and he has proven since then he's the real deal. He's dynamic. He's explosive. He's great with cutbacks. He can run with power. Obviously, very fast. It's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and really, he's just come of age, or in that regard, really in the last couple of weeks. I mean, teams are doing a pretty good job of bottling him up until all of a sudden they played Maryland, and Maryland didn't shake hands with Penn State at the captain's meeting at midfield, and then Penn State unleashed Saquon Barkley on him 31 times for 226 yards or whatever it was, and it was quite the performance by Barkley. Really a coming out party in my opinion, and definitely has gotten Ohio State's attention because Corey Clement, Wisconsin's running back, was having not a very good year at all. Neither was their offensive line, and with 2 weeks for Clement to get a little more healthy, he'd been nagged by a few injuries, and their offensive line to kind of solidify because they played a couple of 3 different lineups in there. Clearly they did a great job against Ohio State's front on many occasions on Saturday night, and Clement went for 168 and had that 68-yard run coming off the goal line, which, wow, you're sitting there in the press box, you're watching this going, you know what?
We got a game. We got a game and the thing that happened on that play is 2 Ohio State tacklers missed tackles, which has not happened this year. Ohio State's been a very sure tackling team, and they were not in the first half. And the thing that stunned me, like on those jet sweeps, is just how much space Wisconsin had. Nobody was even near those guys.
Well, Ohio State went in with the idea that their corner or whoever could chase the guy all the way across the field and take care of it, because they like to play a lot of man in the secondary if they can, and that clearly wasn't happening for them. And they, like I always say, you got one guy chasing, if he gets a little bottled up, everybody else, they look slow because they're not moving. So you always look slower when you're not moving and the other guy is. So you can write that down if you want.
Words to live by.
But that's what they came up with. But really, what was really interesting, like you pointed out, was the way Wisconsin was jumping Ohio State's options to the edge. When J.T. Barrett was trying to slow play it, and Wisconsin was doing the same thing, and then jumping Samuel when he got the pitches. I mean, you're just sitting there going, man, they're going A, B, C, and D, and none of those are working.
But the bottom line is that Ohio State regrouped at halftime. They made the adjustments. They came out pretty much, they certainly dominated the third quarter and part of the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden Wisconsin came alive again. Goes to overtime, and it just felt like Urban Meyer just said that they had 40 seconds to go with 2 timeouts, and they thought about taking a shot, maybe getting in field goal position, and said, nope, I have faith in my team in overtime. They're 4-0 now in overtime. There is just a lot of innate confidence in this team that when things get tough, they can prevail. I think that's their training, that's their talent, that's their mentality, and it came through. They dominated overtime. Even with 2 penalties on offense, they still scored easily.
And analytically speaking, what he's talking about there is, they're one of the tops, if not the top team in both red zone offense and red zone defense. And let's face it, overtime is played in the red zone. If you get those first 5 yards, it starts at the 25, and that stands out about it also. This is going to be an interesting challenge this week because, like I said, they're going into a tough place to play. It's a Penn State team that got bushwhacked, in my opinion, by Michigan 2 games ago. Came back and had a real big win against Maryland, and now, can they carry on that momentum? I mean, they've gone to more of a spread offense as opposed to that basic stuff they've been running the last so many years. Kind of a different looking offense than people have seen from Penn State. McSorley is a very good coming of age kind of quarterback, but this is a Ohio State defensive front led by Taquan Lewis and Jalen Holmes and Nick Bosa and Sam Hubbard, those guys are really getting after it.
Yeah, on that 4th down play, they all met at the quarterback. They choked, party at the quarterback. They did. That was, 2 years ago against Penn State. It was Joey Bosa pushing the defense or the running back into Hackenberg. This was, I felt bad for Warnibrook. He had no chance. He should have thrown it up anyway because what do you have to lose? But he was just swarmed, and that's a huge victory for Ohio State. Number 8 team on the road to do that. That. You needed that kind of test. Indiana gave them a little bit. That was a slap on the wrist. This was a punch in the face, and they prevailed.
Bottom line is, when push comes to shove at crunch time, Ohio State made the play it needed on offense, made the play it needed on defense, escaped Camp Randall, as I said in my OSU Insider this week, and moved on to try to climb Mount Nittany. And, it's going to be quite the challenge. And you and I will both be there after spending the night in Altoona. Our traditional night before the Penn State night game, because it's the only place you can get a reasonable hotel room.
Yes.
And so it's going to be a fun game to watch and a fun game to cover. I'm not sure 8 o'clock games are fun to cover, but you know what I'm saying, Bill. You might as well embrace it, right?
Well, what choice do you have? All I know is that when the game ended, I'm supposed to have my story in like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, can I?
And you got people yelling at you.
No.
And you're trying to keep your cool. It's kind of like the jump around, your own little jump around there. I know the feeling.
It's fun for fans, not so much fun for writers, but you know what? It's okay. It's what we signed up for.
That's right. Well, hey, we'll be back next week to talk about the Penn State game and the Northwestern game, whose kickoff has now been pushed back from the odd 5:30 back to a traditional 3:30 start. And as this Ohio State football team continues to maybe prove itself, the number 2 team in the country is now behind, by acclamation, the number 1 team in the country in Alabama, but there's still half the season to be played.
Right, and 2 years ago, would you have thought at this point of the season Ohio State could beat Alabama? No. Do you think right now Alabama is a better team? Yeah, but you got a lot of time between now and then. If it ever gets to that, it's a long way to go. But look, Ohio State proved 2 years ago, just get there, anything can happen. And to beat Wisconsin is a big step in that process.
Yeah, we'll be back to talk about whether Ohio State passed the whiteout test once again. And until then, this is Tim May
and Bill Rabinowitz. Thanks for watching.